and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm creating a more natural makeup look today. I've gotten a couple of different requests to film a more natural makeup look as opposed to the really bold and dramatic ones. Also, just as a side note, I am filming this on a completely different day than the day that I filmed the original tutorial that you're going to be seeing, just because I was a little bit too tired to film the intro and the outro, and I looked like I had been through something that day. So anyways, if you want to continue to see the makeup look I created for this video, go ahead and keep watching.
Alright, so I'm first starting off with the Dose of Colors Baked Browns palette. I'm taking that darker brown shadow on the right there, and I'm using this angled brush to fill in my brows. I believe thoroughly that brow powders and eyeshadow colors are exactly the same formulas, so if you don't want to invest in a brow powder right away, I would definitely just use an eyeshadow color that matches your brow hairs. So how I'm filling in my brows is I'm first starting off by drawing a line underneath my brows, and I'm using that to kind of get a defined shape before I begin filling in the rest of it. And then after I have that line, I'm just starting to fill in the rest of the brows, just following the natural shape. And then once I have that all filled in, then I'm going to the front of the brow, and this is where you want to make sure you have a really light hand, almost to kind of create an ombre sort of look. Then I'm just taking my brush and kind of almost doing up and down motions right in the front of my brow. This will ensure that your brows aren't too heavy in the front, just so you don't have those bold, Sharpie looking brows, and then it slightly fades into the darker color at the end of the brow. Next, I'm taking the Tarte Shape Tape Concealer. I like using concealers in replace of eyeshadow primers because I feel like they do just as well. Just make sure that whatever concealer that you choose to do this with, it has more of a matte finish. That means that it dries down and isn't sticky or tacky afterwards. This is a very crucial step in eyeshadow applications because not only does it make your eyeshadows more pigmented, but it makes them last longer and not crease on you throughout the day. Now what you see me doing here is just going over that concealer with a beauty sponge. You can also do this with a brush as well, but you just want to make sure that you have no excess product sitting on your lids. Alright, so now we're moving on to eyeshadow. I'm using this fluffy crease brush. It's basically just kind of tapered on the ends, and then it has a little bit more of a curvature on the top. You can literally never have too many blending brushes. So what I'm doing now is I'm taking a lighter brown shade in the palette there. It's about maybe 2 shades lighter than my skin tone, and this is our transition color. So transition colors mainly are supposed to be used for any darker shadows to blend into them. So usually I go lighter to darker in shadows because my rule of thumb is you can always add color, but it's really hard to take them away. I'm just putting this color right in my crease. So basically that area, when you look straight ahead, it's where your lid naturally folds over. So if you have an eye shape similar to mine, where you kind of just lose that shadow every single time you look up, just make sure you're looking straight forward and then just place that shadow right above where that crease naturally folds. Next, I'm taking that darker brown shadow that we originally used for our brows, and then all I'm doing is just going into there and then just tapping off the excess just to make sure I don't have too much product. And I am taking that right on the outer half of my eye there. Then I'm just taking that and I am going to slightly be blending that out. Remember, always use a lighter hand and then always add color if you need to add more, but just don't go with a lot of product right away. Next, I'm taking a fluffier version of that first brush, and with no additional product on it, I'm just blending the two of them together. Next, I'm going in with a shimmery shadow. This is the Stila eyeshadow in the shade Kitten. It's kind of a neutral, rosy, champagne kind of color. When packing on shimmer shades, you want to use a flat brush like this. It's flat on one side, and it's a little bit more dense. You want a pretty dense brush to pack on shimmer shades, just to kind of get the full color payoff. I'm just packing that color right over my lid there, just the area where we left blank. Now I'm going back in with that matte brown shadow, and I'm just going right underneath my lower lash line there with that same brush. I just wiped it off a little bit. Sometimes liner can get too heavy on the lower lash line, so I like using a dark brown shadow like this just to kind of substitute and replace eyeliner. Now I'm going in with the MAC Definedly Black Pro Longwear Eye Pencil. You can obviously use any pencil that you want to, just make sure it's waterproof. So I'm using a technique called tight lining right here. I'm going in my upper and my lower waterline, and this basically just gives a little bit more definition to the eyes without going really heavy with the eyeliner. This next step is pretty self-explanatory, but I'm just taking an eyelash curler and curling my lashes. I'm now taking the L'Oreal Voluminous Lash Paradise Mascara. This is a waterproof mascara, and Honestly, you can use any mascara of your choice. I just like waterproof mascaras just because they tend to hold a curl a little bit longer than a regular mascara. Next, I'm going in with a different mascara. It's the MAC Extended Play Giga Black Lash. This one has a super tiny wand on it, and I like using it to coat my lower lashes because I have super baby lashes, and sometimes you just gotta use a different mascara for the top and the bottom. Next, I'm taking the Becca First Light Primer. This is just going to go as our face primer, and it's more of a purple tint there. It's supposed to be a color correcting shade to kind of even out dullness. I'm using this dense face brush to put on the product, but you can totally use your hands if you want to. I just like using a brush sometimes just to make sure that everything is even all over my face. Also, you want to get a face primer that is suited for your skin type. So I'm a little bit more oily, so I like some that don't settle into fine lines and fill in pores a little bit. Now I'm taking that same foundation brush there, and I'm going in with the NARS Tinted Moisturizer. It's basically just a sheer coverage moisturizer with a little bit of a face tint to it. And I like using this on an everyday basis as opposed to a foundation just because it's a little bit lighter weight. You can also apply this with a sponge if you want to. The only difference between the brush and the sponge is that the sponge gives you a little bit less coverage just because it is porous and it will absorb some of the product, whereas the brush usually packs on a little bit fuller coverage. Now I'm going back in with the Tarte Shape Tape Concealer, and I'm just taking that right down the center of my face, kind of to brighten up that area just a little bit and cover up any redness, usually around my nose and my chin. And then I'm also putting it right underneath my eyes as well to hide any dark circles that the foundation didn't cover. If you notice, this concealer is a couple of shades lighter than my skin tone, and I am using that to brighten, as I said before. But if you wanted to use it for areas to spot conceal, if you had a couple of breakouts that just won't go away, then I would definitely use a concealer that matches your skin tone. Next, I'm taking the Rimmel Stay Matte Translucent Powder. This is completely colorless, and I'm using an eyeshadow brush here. I'm just going over the areas where I put down that concealer and making sure that everything sets in place just to kind of control a little bit of my oils. You can use a larger powder brush if you wanted to, but I like using eyeshadow brushes like this just for a little bit more detail. Now I'm taking this MAC bronzer. I'm not really sure the name of it because it has rubbed off, but I'm taking a larger powder brush and I'm just going right around the perimeters of my face, right in the temples and also in the hollows of my cheekbones as well. You want to make sure, especially with bronzer, not to go overboard with it. Remember, less is more. So if you need to add more, just kind of build up in slow steps. Next, I'm going in with the blush. This is the Milani Baked Blush in the shade Luminoso. This is one of my favorite peachy pink blushes. I feel like peachy blushes are super universal for everybody, so if you can't find your right blush shade, just try going in with a peach and see how it works for you. The idea is to kind of create a gradient between your blush and your bronzer, so just make sure they blend in really well to each other. The last step on the face is going in with the highlighter. This is the Urban Decay Sin Highlighter. Now you can also take a shimmery eyeshadow shade if you want to as well. It works just as well as a highlighter, just in case you don't want to invest in a highlighter right away. All you want to do is use the highlighter to naturally accentuate the places where the light naturally touches your face. So I'm taking that highlighter right down the center of my face, on my temples, on my nose, and also on my cheekbones as well. Now I'm going in with the MAC lipstick in the shade Half and Half. Obviously, lip colors are really personal, so pick whichever lip color that you want. I just personally like this tone of nude lipstick just because it's a little bit warmer and goes better with my skin tone. So I felt like the lipstick needed a little bit more dimension, so I decided to add a lip liner. This is probably about a couple of shades darker than that lipstick. So it is the Wet n Wild lip liner in the shade Laying Down the Mauves. They have a really solid lip liner formula for being as inexpensive as they are. I believe these guys are only a couple dollars. So as you can see, all I'm doing is just lining around the perimeters of my lips. My look would not be complete without some sort of false lashes, and obviously this is a very optional step, but I felt like I needed something, but I still wanted to keep with the natural theme we have going on here. So I'm taking some of the little clusters that Ardell has, and so I'm putting a couple of those in the outer halves of my eye. Last step is going in with setting spray. This is the Scandinavia Bridal Setting Spray, and this just ensures that your makeup will last all day.
Alright guys, so I hope you enjoyed the makeup look that I created, obviously not this one. Also, if you guys have any questions about any techniques or any products that I use, definitely comment those down below. I would love to answer your questions. And I hope you guys are all staying safe and not too bored at home, but hopefully this can provide a little bit of entertainment for the week. So anyways, I hope you guys are having a super awesome day, and I will catch you in my next video. Alright, bye guys.